Greetings. Welcome to the Oldduffer Sitka Trails Christmas special. Before I even start, I'm going to pour myself something to drink. You know, those of us that live in Sitka, we celebrate Christmas twice. You know why that is? Oh, that's good coffee. But yeah, we celebrate Christmas twice. And I brought a few notes because, you know, I'm not too smart up here anymore. My memory's terrible. I'm going to have to start with a little Bible. Not a lot, just a little bit. You know, the Bible doesn't say much about when Jesus was born. Pretty quiet, straightforward. We know that the shepherds had been out in the fields with the sheep, so it couldn't have been the dead of winter. And a lot of people, oh gosh, man, people are funny. You know, everybody digs a ditch and they pick up sticks and stones and aim them at the other person, and they defend this day and they defend this thing and right to the death. They hardly ever look at it themselves. They just listen to somebody else that told them to do it. I'm going to start a little bit. The word Jesus, Emmanuel. Emmanuel means Savior of Yah. It means God with us. That means that God in the spiritual realm, the Creator God, comes into the realm of flesh, bodies, that's us, and becomes man. But a lot of people don't believe that. A lot of people don't believe when Jesus said that, you know, he was the one that created the earth and the sky and the planets for himself. He was the Creator God who come in that person into this fleshly dimension. But setting that aside, we don't know a whole lot about when that was. It's not real clear, which is good in a way. But we do know an awful lot. Especially in the book of Luke, we know an awful lot about the birth of John the Baptist. Father was Zacharias, mother Elizabeth. John was born 6 months before Jesus, and that's easily documented in the Bible. And John's father, Zacharias, was high priest. And when he was performing his priestly duties is when John was born. And we know, and it specifically says, that Zacharias was performing his duties in the month of Abiah, or the section of Abiah, which puts it about the time of Passover in the spring. So if you had 6 months, you end up right around the third week of September. Now, you know, you have to kind of feel sorry for Zacharias and his wife Elizabeth, because they got this son, his name's John. You can imagine he's hanging out with a bunch of people and somebody says, "How's John doing?" Oh my gosh. You know, he hasn't got a job, he's not being educated, and he's out in the desert somewhere with camel hair clothes eating locusts. Of course, the higher critics, whoever they are, say, that proves the Bible's wrong because locusts are unclean meats. There are 2 locusts. One's clean, one's unclean. Anyway, that solves that argument. So right now we're looking at, well, I guess you got a couple of questions you have to ask yourself. Now, whether Jesus was born in around December 25th, or he was born in the fall, like many people think. And each side, you know, they defend their position or whatever. It's really a circular argument. It really is. But I got to get back to here pretty quick about Sitka, the 2 Christmases. Anyway, let me finish this real quick by saying, you know, you've got 2 questions you have to answer. You have to answer whether or not Jesus told the truth or he lied. That's number 1. Number two, you have to say, when did God become flesh? At birth or conception? Uh-oh. Now we're back to around December 25th again. So you see, this whole thing about arguing when Jesus was born, it's kind of a circular argument based on calendars, days, and events. I've studied a lot about calendars. If you want to get frustrated, study calendars. Wars have been fought over calendars. We've got the Julian calendar. We got the Gregorian calendar. We got the Jewish calendar. You know, the Jewish calendar is based on moons. 28 days and I think it's 8 hours per lunar cycle. They've had a lot of trouble with that. And in 405 AD they had to make some calendar changes. Now, I know this is going to upset a whole lot of people, but if you go to a Jewish scholar, those who study the ancient Jewish manuscripts, and you ask them, well, what day is the seventh day of the week and the Sabbath? You know what they're going to tell you? We don't know. And that's the truthful answer. They don't know. Let me explain a little bit. Calendars aren't perfect. Oh, if you want to get into the more interested stuff, just learn about time. You know, the time you're in and the time I'm at, the time this is in, is based on a lot of different things. Wow, listen to that. It's time for lunch. That's the tsunami warning system. They tested at lunchtime. Now I know it's 12 o'clock. If I looked at my watch, it would be pretty close to 12 o'clock. But what's time? Well, that depends upon where you're at, how fast you're moving, and where you're going. Gets complicated. So anyway, do you know that the time of Jesus and the disciples, now they were all under the Roman Empire, correct? Did you know the Roman Empire had an 8-day week? That's right, 8 days. Like I said, calendars are total chaos. Oh, see if I can find my notes here about when they started making changes. When's Christmas? When's Holy Holidays? When's this? When's that? If you're in the Jewish calendar, the year begins when the first full moon after the spring equinox, which changes every year. So when they see the slither of the first moon, they run into the temple and they used to say, I saw it, I saw it. And they say, well, we can't believe you until somebody else sees it. Pretty soon somebody else will come in and see the slither of the moon, and it's a new moon. And then 14, 15 days later, they got Passover, and then 50 days to the next one, and 50 days to the next, and 50 days to the next on the holidays. But it doesn't remain the same. Oh, I spilled coffee on my notes. I'm done for. So anyway, we've got two calendars. We're on the Julian calendar for a long time, but it proved to be so problematic, so many problems with it, that it was about 3 something AD, one of the popes decides we've got to drop some days, get on this Gregorian calendar. We had to get rid of some days of the week. They got rid of 10 days. Now, that was okay because it was actually a small group of people who did that. It was your people in France, Portugal, Spain, maybe Northern Africa, a little bit Italy. If I can't get the rest of it here. My poor notes. I gotta have notes. But anyway, I mentioned that Judaism was forced to change their calendar in 405 AD. Of course, the Roman Church changed it to 10 days. And in, did you know that in 1752, the US, the UK, Canada, they dropped 11 days. Uh-oh. And then a little later, the Russians, the Greeks, and the Turks, they dropped 13 days. So, here you are, it's about 1588 or something like that, and they changed the calendar again. They dropped 11 days. Now, say they drop it on a Friday, 11 days, you count back, you go to another Friday is 7, and then you go Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday. Oh, now Friday becomes a Monday. 11 days are missing. Well, the kings and the rulers of Europe, they thought this was really cool. Because they didn't, that was 11 days they could take off the calendar. They didn't have to pay anybody. They didn't have to pay the serfs to work. What happened? The serfs riot. And their slogan is, give us our back pay. Well, that's where the word back pay came from. Because they wanted to be paid for those 11 days that were taken off the calendar. You know, let me give you a short example of how calendars have really messed up this world. And how changed history. Everybody knows Napoleon. So Napoleon, he decides he wants to march over and take Austria. The Austrians have an army about the same size as Napoleon's. They say, we're going to go talk to Tsar Alexander over in Russia. So he goes over there and they make a pact. They said, you know, we show up over here where we think Napoleon's going to cross the river, coming to an area they call Austerlitz. Some of you might know about that place. Anyway, they signed some agreement that on so-and-so day, they're going to meet in this area. And when Napoleon comes across, they're going to crush him with an army, a combined army so big it was like 3.5 times as big as Napoleon's. I mean, they were ready to do him in. And let's end this right now. Get rid of this upstart, you know. So here comes Napoleon. Now, you know, somebody forgot to coordinate the calendars. General Mack, who was the head of the Austrians, he shows up at the battlefield. Where are the Russians? They're 13 days back. They're using a different calendar. Uh-oh. So there's old General Mack all out there by himself. And the Russians are nowhere to be seen and couldn't get there in time. You know, Napoleon, he not only won the battle because of the mix-up on the calendar, you know. He was an artillery and ballistic and knew about bullets and trajectories and things. And he knew, because he's an expert artillery, he knew that you line up a whole bunch of guys and they're all going to fire at volley fire, that human nature, everybody fires a little high. So he figured that out. That's why in every battle Napoleon ever fought, he marched his men uphill. Because he knew they would fire higher and shoot over their heads. So that's a little bit of history too. But anyway, I thought I'd just put in an example about how calendars got mixed up and wars are fought over and arguments. We're still arguing today over calendars. Really are. Some people say this day is more important than the next day and this and that. You know, they take your position in, you grab your rocks and your clubs and you're going to defend this day against this other day. But they don't take time to really look at it and see what a mess it all is. So I thought I'd just add that. Anyway, that is why the Western churches who are on the Gregorian calendar with that many days missing they keep Christmas on December 25th. Now, some people could say, well, that's a pagan holiday, blah, blah, blah. Well, show me any day of the week, any month, and any day on any calendar that doesn't have got some kind of pagan influence. I mean, that's another circular argument. So anyway, we've got this situation where the Western Christian groups are keeping the 25th, but the Orthodox groups are going to be keeping January 7th. That includes all the Christians in Russia, Eastern Europe, Turkey, most of the Middle East, and all through Africa, and anywhere you find the Orthodox churches. Now, Sitka's got a very large Orthodox population. That's why Sitka people celebrate Christmas on December 25th, and we will celebrate it again on January 7th. But the real big question is, and we had that question, did Jesus tell the truth or did he lie? This is very important. Jesus said that if you saw him, you saw the Father in heaven. He also said that he was the creator of the world and it was created for himself. So is Jesus telling the truth that he is creator God who came here into our dimension as a fleshly person, was murdered, and then resurrected? Okay? If you don't believe that, then all I can say is, have a good trip, wherever that may be. But if you do believe it, I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas, whether it's December 25th, whether it's on January 7th, and regardless of what day of the week it falls on. Have a good day.